Hi class. I wanted to do a review of how to punctuate dialogue and thought shots and format them as well. I know that I have sent out this slideshow to a number of students, as well as the handout that went with it, but I figured maybe I need to do a video version of it to start sending to people. So that's what I'm doing right now. So I wanted to make it really clear about where commas and quotation marks and capital letters all go. So if you look at this, you can get a really clear picture of what a basic dialogue looks like, where we have a capital letter in the first word in your tag, a comma following your tag. Your tag would be something like she says. Then we have our speech, whatever the dialogue may be. The capital, that is capitalized, the first letter in the quotation mark. And notice that the period is inside the quotation marks. So it looks like this. He said, comma, capital, hello, my friend, period, inside the quotation marks. You can also have a tag at the end of the sentence where you have your dialogue, your speech, with a comma before the second set of quotation marks, and then a tag. And notice that your tag in that case is lowercase, and then the period at the end of that. So it looks like this. Hey, buddy, comma, she replied. If you have a question or an exclamation point as part of the dialogue, then the quotation or the question mark or exclamation goes inside of the quotation marks, and then you don't need a comma, and your tag is still lowercase. A lot of times your word processor will automatically capitalize that tag. You'll have to go in there and fix it. So it looks like this. Are you going to the party? He asked. So this is the thing that I'm seeing the most of with students, is that there's either a comma there or something, or maybe an uppercase H for the he, but this is what we want. You can do this for exclamation points too. Looks like that. Again, we have this interruption, a tag that interrupts the speech or the dialogue. In this case, notice where we have our capitals. We have speech capitalized with a comma, and the quotation marks, then our tag lowercase, period. Then you have your speech capitalized with a period and the inside quotations. Of course, this tag can move. I think my next slide. Nope, I need to say this while we're here. This tag, we could also put a period here, capitalize this tag, comma, and then speech, if that's the way you want to do it. Either of those will work. So our example, no, she said, I have work. We talked about how you can use action instead of tags if you're trying to create some variety. In that case, you go ahead and you don't need to have commas introducing the speech. It's a sentence, period, thing in quotation marks for whatever they said, and then another full sentence. So 3 capitalized letters, 3 periods. Oh, you might not be able to see that because of my floating head. Down here I put a no comma to indicate, yeah, we don't need commas in this particular example. So he grabbed her hand, period. Come on, skip work. With thought shots, we actually want to do really similar punctuation. So we just are using italics for the thought shot instead of quotation marks. And so we have our tag, comma, italicized thought shot, period. Both of these the tag and the big first word in your thought shot are capitalized, just like you would with a quote. Again, with thought shots, you don't actually have to put in quotation marks. Our example sentence, he looked over and thought, I'd like to take her home to meet my parents. Thought shots can also be tagged with the tag following the thought shot in the same way we do with quotes. So we have a capitalized first letter, comma, lowercase, tag, period. Again, no quotation marks. What a hopeless tool, she thought as she walked away. So here it is italicized to indicate that it's her in her head, and then our tag telling us that she thought it. There may be special cases when part of your internal dialogue has something kind of quoted. So in that case, it will look like this. So we have our thought shot completely italicized start to finish, but wherever the quotation mark within the thought shot takes place, we put our quotation marks, and so it's kind of doubled up. So my example, more like, no way will I go to a party where he has access to the drinks, she thought with an internal smirk. So that's what I have for formatting dialogue and thought shots. Let me put my little head right here. Maybe that's out of the way enough. So a couple of things though, in addition to the punctuating dialogue and thought shots, I did want to talk about the formatting of them. So first you want to add paragraph breaks between each time a new person speaks, and then also with each new paragraph you want to tab over once. So what does that look like? Tab over. He said, "Hello, my friend." He looked her up and down and thought, wow, I'd like to take her home to meet my parents. And then notice we have a new line because it's a new person, and then we tab over. Hey, buddy, she replied. Why does this bozo always have to look at me like I'm a prime steak, she thought, trying to keep her face neutral. Again, new speaker, new paragraph, tab over. Are you going to the party, he asked. Fingers crossed, fingers crossed, fingers crossed. No, she said, I have work. More like, no way will I go to a party where he has access to the drinks, she thought with an internal smirk. So tab over each of the first line, or the first line of each new paragraph, and start a new paragraph each time a different person speaks. That extra white space on the page will help your reader keep track of where they are. So here's a question. Why does formatting and punctuation matter, he asked. Because it helps your reader understand, she explained. But more importantly, good punctuation with dialogue will make using in-text citations easier when we get to them. So I'm going to have a little preview of what's coming in the second half of the semester. So here's an example. In her graphic novel, What It Is, Linda Berry explains, comma, paragraph, or quotation mark, the two questions find everybody, period, quotation. She argues, comma, quotation, without the two questions so much as possible. Does that look familiar? One thing that we will change when we get to the point of incorporating sources in this way is that we'll add page numbers if they're available when we have our quotes. In that case, that's where we have the period come outside of the quotation mark. So instead of being here, as it is for dialogue or for situations where we don't have page numbers, the period comes outside of the parentheses and is there. Let's look at another one. Anne Lamott explains in Bird by Bird, comma, quotation mark, capitalized, almost all good writing begins with terrible first efforts. You need to start somewhere. Quotation mark, parentheses, 7, parentheses, period. So the next piece, and this is what we're going to be doing when we get to the second half of the semester is that we want to try to get these writers talking to each other just like we do with dialogue. So here's my example. In her graphic novel, What It Is, Linda Berry explains the two questions find everybody. She argues without the two questions, so much is possible. Similarly, Anne Lamott also argues that it isn't useful to dwell on perfection, especially early in the drafting process. In Bird by Bird, Lamott explains, almost all good writing begins with terrible first efforts. You need to start somewhere. And that's the end. So happy dialoguing, and as always, ask me questions if you have any issues, and I will see you in the next video.